Suttener, a man who himself was jailed by the apartheid police for his role in the struggle, has suggested that the African National Congress is no longer a party that leads or enhances democratic life. The Professor joins us now. Professor, good afternoon to you, sir. I really do appreciate your time. You start by examining how the ANC changed during the time Jacob Zuma was becoming its leader, and in particular 2006 when he was on trial for rape and when he was president. How do you believe the ANC was changed during that time?
I think that there were the qualities that Jacob Zuma brought into the ANC had been there before, but they were enhanced and entrenched. The violence was there before, the corruption was there before, but it took the form of state capture. What I was wanting to do more than focus on Jacob Zuma was what needed to change if there was going to be a break from Jacob Zuma. And I tried to identify the qualities of the Zuma era, which was not simply corruption and state capture, but hyper-patriarchy manifested in his rape trial, cultural chauvinism, with this labeling him as 100% Zulu, cultural essentialism, ideas like that there's a particular way that a Zulu person should behave as part of his defense in the rape trial. So I saw that as a turning point, but it was manifested in other ways later in his term of office. And my argument in the article was really, is there a new dawn? What does there need to be a new dawn? And have they really identified the qualities of that period? That is really what my focus is on. I think that, yeah.
Professor, there's a tendency among, and perhaps it's political journalism or journalists, and I'll include myself in this criticism, that we focus on the personalities and the people, and I understand why we do that to an extent. It does mean, though, that we miss the dynamics. We don't focus enough on them, the dynamics that you're talking about. Patriarchy is one of them. Do you believe that the ANC then has changed in the last, well, let's go back to the beginning, let's say January 2018 after Nasrec? Is there any indication that the ANC's dynamics or the way that it thinks of the world has changed since then?
Well, I think it's declined. It's, well, I don't think the qualities that were present in the Zuma era, the fact that there was not debate within the ANC, has continued. Now, when I was involved, we used to debate all the time. I was involved up until, well, I wasn't so active in the 21st century, but I was a member till 2006. But in the 1980s, 1990s, we would be debating all the time. And now, when you want a tender, you don't enter into debates. You may advance radical economic transformation, but it's a form of camouflage used to hide what you really go into the ANC for. So that has not really changed, in my view, since Cyril Ramaphosa is becoming president, partly because he has moved very cautiously. He has he's tried not to rock the boat. I made the point particularly that he has not taken control of the ANC, and he left Ace Magashule to run ANC headquarters, unlike Thabo Mbeki, who used to go in at least once a week, just about the whole of his terms of office, to ensure that he had authority over the ANC and ensured that he knew what was happening. Now, Magashule was left with autonomy. He brought in a whole lot of ex-ministers at ministerial salaries while the staff were not paid and things like that. So I think that things may even have got worse, or not worse in general, because, I mean, Ramaphosa is much better than Zuma, but some of the crises within the ANC, the crises of finances, have got worse. And the disintegration of organization and debate has remained, and it may have got worse, because one of the things that's very clear about the Ramaphosa presidency is that there's no real vision. We used to have clear ideas as to where we wanted to go to, how we wanted to get there, and we would debate about those things, and there would be disagreement and contestation. Nowadays, you don't really have a vision. You know that you must keep the deficit low, you must not have high inflation, and a few things like that. But there's not a general idea of what it means to be in the ANC, embodied in the statements of the leadership. If you read these statements, they are vacuous. They are devoid of ideas. And I think I was not a huge fan of Thabo Mbeki, but the thing with Thabo Mbeki is he had a clear vision for South Africa, for the ANC, and for the continent. And I think there's a complete absence of that in the ANC today.
Professor, one of the things that's made the ANC unique, I think perhaps before democracy, but certainly after democracy, is it was the only movement that I could see that could bring together a national coalition. When Gwede Mantashe was the Secretary General, he liked to remark, or I certainly remember him saying, that it was the only party that could actually have a candidate in every municipal ward in the country. The Democratic Alliance doesn't even come close to doing that, and it's the next biggest party. So is the problem that it's facing a function only of the ANC itself, which it may be, and I accept what you say? Could it also be a function of South Africa and our society, which has grown more divided and more unequal than it was?
I don't know if I think it's more unequal. That's statistically shown by lots of studies. But if it's become more divided, one has to ask who takes responsibility to address that. And I don't think the ANC is playing the same unifying role that it used to play as part of a general lack of leadership that it's providing. It's not, when people knew there was going to be a speech by this or that leader, they would go and listen because they would learn from it. And I don't think the ANC plays the pedagogic role anymore. And if it's true that the society is more divided, I'm not sure, but if it's true, when I was in leadership, we would sit down and discuss, and we would say, how do we address this? The main problem is in Limpopo or KZN or whatever it is. Who are the best people to send down there to listen and hear what are the problems and learn from those and develop solutions for it? And I don't think you've got that organizational focus in the same way as before. It's become an electoral machine, which every 5 years wakes up to get people to vote. Now, when I don't want to keep on reminiscing, but when I was involved, I was very much opposed to the idea of the ANC becoming conventional political party focusing on elections. Now the ANC has become an electoral machine, if it's anything, but it's disintegrating even as that. Can't even register its own candidates. So I don't know about whether it's more divided as a society, but what I do know is that there is no countervailing force, and the ANC used to be a great unifying force. It isn't that anymore.
Is this the fault of leaders? I think there's strong evidence, and certainly from what you say, during the Zuma era, that must have been the case. But do members of the ANC also bear some responsibility? I forget who made this point. I think it might have been Newzroom Afrika at the Sunday Times, who suggested that one of the contradictions of the ANC is that delegates will go to a conference and vote in favor of a resolution that people who are accused of corruption must step aside or step down or basically be removed from their position. But those same people who voted for that resolution will then vote for Ace Magashule to be the Secretary General of the ANC.
Yeah, well, what people do relates to how they are inducted into the organization. Are they inducted anymore? Are people taking members and saying to them, this is what it means to be in the ANC? And are those people then inducting others into those values? Now, in 1990, we were very concerned about that because the ANC had been banned for 30 years. Now, I have a sense that that doesn't happen anymore, and it would be wrong to place the blame on the members. I mean, the members are, some of them, you know, the ANC is a very diverse organization. When I used to go to the rural areas, it was very different from in Johannesburg, for example. So I wouldn't like to generalize about and put the blame on members. I put the blame on leadership because or let's say the way in which leadership is now conceived. It used to be conceived as people who played a role which was political in an educational sense. You would be advancing a set of ideas which included unifying visions. In other words, the divisions that you speak of run counter to the founding principles of the ANC, which where Seme said, we are one. And that was really both an aspiration as well as a statement of the founding principles of the ANC. Now, that sort of idea, if it is said, is not seriously advanced. It's said that Ramaphosa doesn't want to split the ANC, that's why he goes very slowly. But sometimes he goes very slowly on the things that actually feed into divisions. And sometimes you've got to be very firm and assert some ideas, but I just get the impression that they are not interested in ideas. People are interested in holding office and becoming wealthy and things like that, even after Zuma. And many of the people there now are implicated in the Zuma era.
So, Professor, that brings us then to the ultimate question. Can it be fixed, do you think? I mean, can it be fixed?
Well, you know, when I said in my title that the ANC may be in a terminal crisis, that doesn't mean that it will disappear from the scene. It's already a very different organization from what it was 20 years ago. And I think that the ANC is a sort of dead person walking. It no longer means the same things as it used to be. It should change, but it has not changed in a dynamic way. It has decayed. It has degenerated. It is a decadent organization. And it may well continue to be the ruling organization for some time, but what that means for people is something very different from the dynamic ideas that people hoped for 20 years ago.
Professor Raymond Suttener, sir, thank you very much indeed for your time this afternoon
Thank
and
you
your
for
thoughts.
having me.
I really do appreciate it.